I'll just talk over this then. So the very obvious, well, not really obvious, but we need to keep the URL as a piece of reactive state inside our app in order for our app to react to the changes. So our root app probably should have a data property called URL to hold the current URL. And where do we get the URL? We get it by retrieving window.location.hash, and we can slice off the leading hash just so things look a bit cleaner. But the important thing is you want to initialize your app URL with that hash when the app boots. This is important for passing the test because the page will try to, if you directly visit your page with hash foo, and you don't initialize your URL, if you initialize URL with something like null or something, right, then no components will be matched and your page will just be blank when people visit an existing, directly visit a hashed URL, which is not good. So initializing your app state with the browser with a hash on startup is important to enable deep linking. And then inside the hash change listener, we just update the URL. So this is enough to trigger reactive updates, causing Vue to update your app. And next is, in this case, I'm using two components here. But if you are lazy or you just want to get it working, you can, in fact, just do something like URL. That's pretty much it. But in most cases, when you do routing, you are switching between pages, virtual pages, right? And in the context of Vue or most of today's frameworks, pages are just components, right? It just boxes all the way down. So we use components, top-level components, to represent the pages. And we're really, when you talk about switching pages in a single-page application app, you're switching between components. So which is why the component is syntax is well suited for this use case. Alternatively, you can get rid of all of this and use render functions. And remember, in render functions, we were able to, but we'll actually talk about that later. But for now, our components are statically registered under foo and bar. And we use component is URL to match that. And this should give us the desired result in the browser. Really, all you need to do is make sure the URL is reactive and that there is a way to translate URL into a component that's rendered in a template. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward, but we noticed that our configuration is essentially hard-coded. Ideally, when you have an app and you have some routing configurations, you want this routing to be somehow hoisted out so that you can have a routing table you can look at. You know which path corresponds to what, which this example does not have. So our next exercise is essentially building on top of that. Oh, I need to switch back. 5.2. Now we have a bit more boilerplate written for you. We have a foo component, have a bar component, and we have a not found component. Okay, and we have a route table. We want to implement the route table so that the rendering is the source of truth. The how your path corresponds to components should be from this route table. And the behavior should remain the same from the last app, except for when you are at a hash that's not foo or not bar, it should display not found. And just as a hint, it's probably a good idea to use render functions for this exercise. Yeah. So let's give another 10 minutes.